standard subdivision policies are not appropriate due to the specialized nature of a development. In this case, it allows a limited exception to minimum subdivision size requirements for a clearly defined marina slip area without altering those policies elsewhere. Importantly, the designation does not remove planning control. All planning approvals, conditions, and enforcement powers remain fully intact. The site-specific nature of the proposal. The proposed framework applies only to the Port Nimara Marina bird slips area. It is not a general policy change for marinas across Anguilla. That is for future marinas. Any similar proposal in the future would require its own consideration, approvals, and potentially its own legislative process. Our public interest considerations. In developing this proposal, the government has been mindful of public concerns around land use, coastal access, environmental protection, and legislative precedent. That is why the proposed framework is deliberately narrow, supported by existing regulatory systems, and subject to public consultation, which we are doing today. This consultation is an important part of ensuring that policy decisions are informed, transparent, and accountable. In terms of immigration and customs, the port of entry framework, a further policy consideration relates to immigration and custom controls, particularly where marina development interface with international vessel movements. It is important to emphasize that Anguilla existing laws already provide a clear and robust framework for immigration and customs operations at non-traditional facilities once they are formally designated. So under the Customs Act, the Governor and Council has the authority to designate any area in Anguilla as a customs port, impose conditions on its use, and revoke that designation if need be. Similarly, under the Immigration and Passport Act, the Governor may by regulation declare ports of entry for immigration purposes. Once an area is designated as a customs port and a port of entry, customs and immigration officers may lawfully carry out their full statutory functions there, including boarding vessels, examining goods, and persons granting or refusing entry and enforcing all applicable laws. From a policy perspective, this means that the proposed Port Nimara framework does not weaken border control. On the contrary, it ensures that any international arrivals through the marina occurs only within a formally designated, regulated, and enforceable port of entry environment. No new immigration or customs powers are being created, and no exemptions are being granted. Existing statutory powers remain fully intact and operational. So having outlined the policy background and rationale, including planning, ports, immigration, and customs consideration, the next presenters will explain how this policy intent is translated into legal provisions and administrative safeguards. I will now invite Ms. Angela Hughes to focus on an overview of the legislation.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. My role today is legislation of land administration and land regulation. I will focus specifically on how the Act 2025 interacts with the land registration system, what it introduces and changes, and the safeguards that remain in place. I will not be addressing commercial or development matters. The Registered Land Act is the primary governing law for land administration in Anguilla. The primary purpose of the proposed act is to create a clear and lawful framework that allows marina berth slips at Port Nimara to be registered within Anguilla's existing land registration system. Our laws at present are designed more primarily for land-based parcels and buildings, and they did not contemplate the registration of individual slips based on water as separate parcels. The legislation will address that gap in a very specific and limited way. It's site-specific, so it only applies to this port, Nimara Marina, and it would not apply to any other marina were one to exist. It will operate alongside the Registered Land Act. Turning to berth slips as registrable parcels, the Act defines a berth slip as a clearly identified and surveyed parcel, a space which is within the marina where a vessel may be docked once the owner of that vessel is registered as the owner of the berth slip. Once registered, the slip is treated as immovable property for land registration purposes. So that means, similar to a parcel of other land, it can be owned, leased, and mortgaged, but only within the framework that's created by this proposed legislation. It's important to note that it does not convert the seabed generally into private land. It does not change the ownership of surrounding water. The proposed act allows for the registration of a berth slip within a specific approved marina plan at Port Nimara. The Port Nimara plan is a key safeguard in the legislation is the requirement for a plan to be registered. The plan must be filed with the land registry before any slip can be sold or registered, and that plan has to show each slip individually, the dimensions and the reference number, the size of the vessel that can be accommodated on the slip, and the areas designated as common property. The plan would function in a similar manner to a survey plan, and it's intended to provide certainty, transparency, and enforceability. The berth slips register is a requirement. Under the Act, it's established, and it will operate within the existing land registration system. So each berth slip will be registered individually, and the ownership details will be publicly searchable, just like other parcels of land are searchable now. This ensures legal clarity for the owners, lenders, and regulators while maintaining the integrity of the land registry. Under the proposed legislation, a declaration has to be filed. It's called a master declaration, and it must contain details of how the marina will be operating, the insurance arrangements, rights and responsibilities for berth slip owners and the marina owner. It should contain dispute resolution mechanisms, safety procedures, and any other matter that may be required by the Registrar of Lands. In terms of the role of the Registrar of Lands will maintain full oversight and responsibility and has the power to approve or reject marina plans or amendments and ensure compliance with the Act, the Registered Land Act, and applicable registry policies. The same would apply for the declaration. The legislation does not reduce or bypass the Registrar's statutory discretion. In terms of safeguards and limitations and what the legislation does not do, it doesn't change land subdivision rules across Anguilla. It does not automatically apply to any other marina or development. It does not remove planning, environmental, or port controls. And it does not create a general precedent for water or space privatization. The Act is site-specific, tightly defined, and limited to only this marina. The Special Development Area regulations allow the marina slip area to be treated as an exception to the minimum subdivision size policies. So the sizes that we have for land and buildings would not necessarily be helpful for a marina situation. So the Special Development Area regulations allow us to address that. But planning control will remain fully intact. So in summary, the proposed legislation provides legal certainty, transparency, and regulatory control for a very specific type of property while preserving the integrity of Anguilla's land administration system. I will now hand over to my colleague to complete the section regarding planning.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sharon Roberts Joseph Hodge, and I'm the Principal Planning Officer. And it's my role this evening to explain the intent, scope, and the key considerations of the bill from a planning perspective. I will outline the statutory basis for the designation of a special development area, clarify the role of the physical planning physical planning in relation to the proposed marina legislation, and explain what this designation does and does not change within the planning framework. Statutory basis for the special development area. Provisions for the designation of a special development area already exist within our Physical Planning Act, and that is within Section 11. Therefore, this designation is not a new concept by any account, but rather the application of an existing statutory planning mechanism. The Act defines the special development area as an area of land adjacent to or within which an area there is or will be a duly approved particular development which is of significant importance to the general development of Anguilla and which therefore requires protection of the environment. The meaning and purpose of a special development area from a planning perspective. A special development area allows government to formally recognize that certain developments, such as marinas, are strategic in nature, complex in scale, and fundamentally different from conventional land-based development, such as dwelling houses, for example. Existing planning policies, which have been developed primarily for terrestrial type development, are not always practical in this case, are appropriate when applied to marina-based infrastructure. By way of example, government's long-standing policy is a minimum allowable size for land-based parcels of 0.14 acre. Applying the standard to marina-based development is impractical and really contrary to the intent and the application of that policy. So therefore, the special development area designation provides a structured planning framework that allows such development to be assessed and regulated in a manner that is fit for purpose while remaining consistent with the objectives of orderly development and environmental protection. The scope and limitations of the special development area, what are they? This designation does not remove the requirement for planning permission to be granted. It does not override environmental, coastal, or marine protection. It does not permit uncontrolled, speculative, or piecemeal type development to occur. It does not apply beyond the defined Port Nimara Marina slip area. All planning approvals, conditions, and enforcement powers will continue to apply as it was before. Continuity of planning, control, and enforcement. Any physical works, structures, alterations, or operational changes within the marina do remain subject to planning permission. The Department of Physical Planning / LDCC remains full authority to 1, impose planning conditions, 2, monitor compliance, and 3, take enforcement action when and if necessary. The proposed legislation does not transfer planning authority to the developer or any other body. Planning approvals in relation to land registration. Again, the registration of marina berth slips does not replace or bypass planning approval. Planning approval and land registration, separate legal processes, each governed by its own legislation and statutory arrangements. Both processes must be satisfied independently and will proceed strictly in accordance with the standards, procedures, and requirements set out in the respective legislation. From a planning perspective, in summary, the proposed legislation provides a narrow and targeted legal accommodation for registration purposes only, while maintaining full planning control, environmental protection, and regulatory oversight. And with that, I will pass over to my colleague from Ports.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sharma Fleming, the Director of Maritime Affairs at the Anguilla Maritime Administration and Shipping Registry. I adopt the protocol that was previously established. This presentation addresses Section 6 of the bill, Port Nimara Marina Anguilla Berth Slips, which relates to the authority of the Superintendent of Ports to access the marina at any time, once reasonable notice has been provided. Under Section 3 of the Ports, Piers, and Harbor Act, the Superintendent of Ports is responsible for two key applicable duties. One, the administering and enforcing of the Act and its regulations, and two, the management of marine navigational aids to support safe vessel movement. Section 4 of the Act further empowers the Superintendent of Ports to, 1, regulate and control navigation of vessels within limits of any marina, port, or harbor, and approaches thereto, and 2, regulate the use of any marina or pier. The Act also assigns several important safety-related responsibilities. These include 1, recording of marine accidents and incidents within the marina, 2, managing of wrecks when necessary, in particularly in situations where there may be an urgent risk to life, and 3, most fundamentally, ensuring safe navigation. It is important to note that the superintendent's role does not exist in isolation. These responsibilities are supported by other legislation, particularly the Merchant Shipping Act as it pertains to the implementation of the International Convention for Safety of Life at Sea, which sets the international standards for navigation safety. Recognizing the importance of these responsibilities ascribed in the proposed legislation, the Anguilla Maritime Administration and Shipping Registry is developing a policy for marine management safety systems. These systems provide a comprehensive framework which includes policies, procedures, including berthing of vessels, and clearly defined responsibilities. Its purpose is to ensure that the marina operations are safe, maintained to an appropriate standard, and that the marine environment is protected from ship-sourced pollution. The implementation of these systems will further empower the Superintendent of Ports to ensure compliance with all requisite legislation, that is, the acts and regulations that are relevant to these areas. Members of the listening audience, this concludes our brief presentation on the role of the Superintendent of Ports under Section 6 of the Port Nimara Marina Anguilla Berth Slips Act 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharma. I would now invite David, if you're listening, to join us and to present from the developer's perspective.
Thank you very much to the audience. You will excuse my time. I'm located in Switzerland, in Europe, and here it is very cold winter. We are very thankful that we can meeting and present views and recommendations. As it has been indicated by participants before, this bill refers to a very technical regulation related to the registration of Berth slips.
Is basically open to all vessels, that the vessels will or the marina will respond to the port authority that will have base in the marina. There will be a marina management that will manage the slips and the operations of the Port Nimara, and that will respond as well to the port authority. So all vessels arriving will be guided and managed by the marina management. As indicated by the participants, all regulations, and in particular all environmental regulations, will have to be followed by this marina management or implemented by the marina management, so that all vessels and vessel owners comply to these regulations during the operations of the marina. Yeah, as I said, the bill refers to a very technical situation where the berths, as of now, have not been considered in the legislation of Anguilla, and this bill now makes them possible, which is very important for the success of the project. So I will be very honored to answer any questions from the public, and support the government in this bill that we very much welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So we now move to the public questions and answer session. So we're inviting persons online and persons in the gallery to ask your questions, and we'll try to provide responses.
Good afternoon. A question from online. So will the slips be subjected to a GT for rental and property tax?
So I believe GT, what they're speaking about is the goods tax at the port. Yes, that tax will be applicable where necessary. But the other taxes would also be the general services tax, where also necessary, and also property tax is something that also will be applied.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Rory Purcell. I work at Four Seasons Resort. I am interested in the development. I think it's a great initiative for Anguilla. I'm curious about the physical parameters of the individual sites in terms of depth, and whether that would be maintained under contract. You know, if a person or an entity were to procure a slip, is that come with a guarantee of access to a minimum depth and the minimum route into the marina?
I think David was best to answer that. David, did you hear?
Yes, I did. Yes, there are different each berth has a
depth
depth
specific to the size of the vessel that can moor on those specific parts.
just additionally, just
Specifically, the actual access from the open sea, how would that be controlled for, say, an investor who buys a slip? That does it need to be frequently dredged, and how would that be catered for in any purchase and sale agreement?
Yeah, so there is an access area which is under concession from the government that does not pertain this specific bill. The bill reflects more as to what happens inside of the marina. But there is an access that is designed according to the applicable regulations and norms for marina design, the international marina design regulations that allow the entrance of the vessels to all the sizes that we can accommodate within the marina. The depth of the entrance channel will be to the deepest of the vessels, or the deepest of the berths. And all the other berths, they will have, there are areas that have different depths. So the smaller berths are accommodated to one location, and the larger berths to other locations. So there are 2, 3, or 4 different areas for different berth sizes that go from 240 feet to 40 feet. The smallest vessel will be 40 foot long, and the largest vessel that we can accommodate within the marina will be 240 foot. And that is reflecting not only the depth, but all the maneuverability areas and turnaround areas for each one of the berths. And that is maintained. And that is why when we have the berths allocated, so the position of the berths is fixed, so that cannot move. So whoever purchases a berth has a berth and has also a right of way within the marina and within the entrance channel. So all these accesses are given. And the distance to the opposite berth that will allow the maneuverability cannot be changed. So as it has been indicated, each berth will have a maximum size of vessel that can be allocated to that berth. And for the implementation of all these regulations and all these requirements, the marina management will be responsible under the control of the Port Authority.
Thank you.
Sorry, to further expound, I think it's necessary for us to indicate that one of the key practices that will have to be implemented to ensure that the depths
Are consistent is doing hydrographic surveys on a regular basis. So I think that will help you in understanding in relation to the access and ensuring that the depths are consistent.
Thank you very much.
Another question from online: will there be a police and customs station at the marina? And will the marina be open 24 hours?
I can answer the first part. Yes, there will be a customs, immigration, and police facility at the marina. I think David can answer the last part about the 24-hour access.
I did not quite understand the question. If you could please repeat for me.
The second part of the question is if the marina will be open 24 hours on a
Yes,
24 basis.
yes, the marina will be open 24 hours, basically, or attended 24 hours. There will be a 24-hour attendance through emergency and also through a regular overnight management crew.
Just press the button.
I live behind a marina, so I look at it every day. I guess this is for planning. I have not seen the EIA, but assume the EIA was done on this. My question really is three questions. Who paid for the EIA? Who decided what company did the EIA? And did it take into account the blasting that's going to have to be done down there? Thank you.
Could you repeat the second point?
I'm sorry. Who selected the company for the EIA and who paid for the EIA?
And there was another one.
And the other one was the blasting
Okay.
involved
right.
with that. And is that a part of the EIA, the effects of blasting at the marina?
Okay,
Thank you.
right. Well, the EIA was a mandatory requirement for the type of development that we're talking about. And as is the norm, government does not pay for any EIA. It's on the developer. As far as who is the firm that is selected to prepare the EIA, we have a procedure in place whereby we have some a number of pre-approved firms that have done EIAs on Anguilla for the past 30-odd years and who have been vetted and approved by the Land Development Control Committee. Every firm has to submit their CVs, and if a developer were to choose one of these firms, then it's pre-approved, and we would proceed from there. If it's a new firm, they have to start from scratch and submit all their relevant details. Before there is an EIA submitted, what we do in the office is we provide terms of reference, and that terms of reference comprises of information that would come from a consultation basis with all relevant agencies, the port, the lands and surveys, environment, what have you. And we usually have a roundtable discussion in which the development is discussed, and we get written feedback from all the stakeholders, the consultees, and we use that to prepare a document which lists the required areas to be studied with the EIA. And so with this particular development, that approach, which is standard and tested for many years, that's the approach that was done. And so they submitted a firm. I can't remember which firm it was at this point in time, and it was approved and accepted by the board, and the terms of reference was given, and the document that came out of that, it was again circulated amongst all the stakeholders, and once the committee and the stakeholders were satisfied that that document had supplied all the information necessary, that was used to the analysis of it. We decided that the board decided that it was acceptable and was satisfied with it. So that is the process. And as far as blasting, yes, all that, from my recollection, all that would have been addressed. It would have been. Like I said, it's many years ago, so I can't remember, but yes, it would have been addressed. I would hope it was addressed.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was addressed.
Help you. It was addressed, and but currently we don't expect to implement blasting, as the dredging of the marina has already started, and the soil qualities appear to be good enough so that we do not, I mean, good enough in terms of soft enough, so we don't have to implement any blasting.
Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. So, I'm Hafiz from Anguilla. Following up to that question with the environmental impact study, was a social impact study accompany that environmental impact study? And number two, is that environmental impact study available to the public?
Yes, it is definitely available to the public. At the time, it had been placed in the library, lands and physical planning, and a couple other locations, which I can't recall at the moment. But yes, it continues to be available for scrutiny to the public. And yes, a social impact study was done, again, to my recollection, because this was many years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Another question from online. Can the public obtain a copy of the EIA?
No, not from us. You have to appreciate the document it was given to us for the general public to view, but we cannot give any part of that document. We cannot reprint it due to publication issues. If anybody wanted a copy, then they would have to speak directly to the developer, but it is always available. Once you give us a little notice and we can retrieve it from our archives, it's always available for scrutiny at our department. Beg your pardon? No, it's not available online. It would have been many years ago. You have to appreciate this document. It's at least 10 years or more, but it's a hard copy. Again, if you need it, maybe we can discuss with the developer if it can be placed online at this point in time, if that seemed to be the way to go. But we only have hard copies. Yeah.
We'd be happy to.
Another question from online. What if the project is not completed? Will the Berth be alienated in perpetuity? What if the project is not completed? Will the Berth be alienated in perpetuity?
Well, it's a very it's a very good question. That's contingency planning, but I have strong hopes that Mr. Mizrahi and company, they have started the process of developing and building this marina, and I have confidence in them that they will see it through. I don't know if David want to comment any further on that.
Didn't quite hear the question. It was breaking up. So if you could repeat, please, the question.
Want to repeat the question?
If the project is not completed, will the Berth be alienated in perpetuity?
The project will be completed. Again, I hear it a little broken.
You want the question to be repeated, David?
If you could the microphone of the computer, because I hear it from the speakers of the space, so it is very difficult to understand.
Okay.
What if the project is not completed? Will the Berth be alienated in perpetuity?
It doesn't understand opportunity. Yeah, for us.
It's a question that I don't know how to answer. It's like answering what if there is an earthquake and the island of Anguilla doesn't exist anymore. What will happen? I don't know. The port will be completed. That is the intention, and that is the process in which we are. We are under construction, and we will finish the construction. We have everything in place, set up, so that we can finalize the project. If the project is not completed, what will happen? There will be several. I mean, it will depend on for what reason the project is not completed. I don't know. We would have to analyze that question more in detail. Is it not completed because, I don't know, because of a natural disaster? So then there will be insurances, and so it will be completed. It will be just a matter of time. If the port is not completed because of I don't know, lack of funding, so then there will be other funding groups that are set up to coming in, or the port is not completed because I don't know what reasons. Every reason that would apply for not completing the port would have a different outcome. So the question is very theoretical. I don't know how to provide an answer to that. In any case, the land is a private land, so yeah, it will always be remain in private hands. So it will not become a burden to the government of Anguilla.
Good evening. My name is Judy Guthrie. I also live right at the marina. I'm looking at it, and it has impacted us hugely already, negatively. I'm very concerned that, or disappointed that an environmental impact study was done 10 years ago. Would it not be appropriate that it would have been done more recently, considering this project just started? I mean, 10 years, things change. And I would like to read it, and I think it should be available to the public, to anyone who wants to see it. And I have one other little follow-up thing. I'm very concerned about the lights at night at the marina, what it's going to be like at our house. If this is all going to be lit up, is there a sensitivity to the fact that you're in a neighborhood? It's not just all tourists down there in hotels. That's a neighborhood, a community.
Okay. As I mentioned before, the EIA is most definitely available for the public, and we look, anytime during our hours of operation, you're welcome to view it. As far as the EIA being done some 10 years ago, you have to keep in mind that planning permission does not expire. Within our act, our current act, it is forever right now. And so that development, that EIA was done in order to supply the board with information to make an informed decision. And that's what it did. So as far as the concept, that has not changed. It's still the same development that was submitted to us 10 odd years ago. There have been components of the EIA that have been looked at since that time, like in the last 2 or 3 years. And that was done. Some environmental aspects were addressed since that time. But again, that was not a planning requirement. That would have been from another entity, probably insurance or what have you. But I have to stress, from a planning point of view, from a planning perspective, with our current act, planning permission does not expire. So we could not legally ask for an EIA to be redone. If the project was totally different, then we would have the legal right to do so. But in this case, it was not. Yeah.
Add to this, the project is being funded by several international groups that are bound to the different protocols of environmental consistency. So every project has to fulfill the most up-to-date and the most modern and the most new or the newest regulations in terms of environmental regulations, environmental propositions. Therefore, before we started the project, we were compelled, not by the government or by the regulations, but also by our funding groups, to perform certain additions to the environmental impact study, which were performed, and certain validations in terms of verifications that certain parts of the study that were done many years ago that could have changed during these years, that these validations or that these studies or specific studies are still applicable. And we performed all those, and we are also performing those on a continuous basis. The environmental impact study does not only creates a study for what happens if a marina is built. The environmental impact study also issues a series of monitoring requirements that needs to be performed from time to time during the construction of the marina. And this monitoring is being performed on a continuous basis. It reflects the monitoring of the water quality. It reflects the monitoring of the sea life. Reflects the monitoring of the flora and fauna within the marina and outside the marina. And many other impacts that the construction of the marina will have. This monitoring does not stop also with the construction of the marina. It extends even during the operations. So there is a full program of monitoring and environmental measures that are being followed by the development team and by the construction team. And these are also constraints that the construction company will have to fulfill and is fulfilling during the construction of the marina. So you can be assured that even if the environmental impact study was performed 10 years ago, even today, the validity of the environmental impact study is there. And in terms of any kind of modification that could have happened or changes in the parameters that could have happened in those 10 years, that has been updated, and there has been studies performed to update those, and they have been considered by the third parties that have been performing these environmental studies as acceptable and sufficient, and we are very much concerned and committed to implement all the environmental monitoring and testing, and secure that if there is any deviation that the construction of the marina is imposing, that the necessary measurements and the necessary actions are taken to prevent any kind of negative impact.
And if I may add to that,
The results of the EIA was used to inform the number of conditions that is attached to the approval. We've got about 3 pages of conditions that has to be met. And like I stated in my previous presentation, they are enforceable. Yeah.
David, the other part of the question had to do with lighting and if the marina will be sensitive to the fact that that there's a neighborhood close by. So do you want to respond to the question about the lighting up of the marina?
Yes. So the marina will be enlightened with basically with downlights. So there will be lights with today's technology using LED lighting along the pontoons. The light will not really impact the environment. And also in the promenade around the marina, there will be lights that will be pointing down. So it will. We are trying to maintain the lighting as low as possible and as sensitive as possible. Also, we need to understand that the marina will be surrounded basically by buildings. So the marina itself will not have a strong light impact to the surroundings. The vessels themselves, they have their own internal lights, but it is more like a building. So we don't expect to have a very strong impact to the surroundings. Bear in mind that we have a hotel next to us, which is Belmont. There will be a hotel in the marina development, and then there is the Altamare marina, Altamare development to the west. So all these developments, they already have their own lights, and we will be in the same framework as those developments existing.
Thank you. Back to my previous question about the EIA. I was not aware that the EIA you were using is the one that was done 10, 11 years ago for the development on the West End. The EIA is the same EIA that was done 10 or 11 years ago for the West End. The reason for my question before is that EIA was paid for by the developer at that time, and he chose who did the EIA. And there were serious problems with that EIA. If you go back in the records, I was on the board of the National Trust at that time, and we brought up some serious concerns with that EIA. First of all, it was mainly a beach development. There was no deep port marina. It was a bird sanctuary. It was going to be where the marina is right now. There was a heliport where the entrance to the marina is now. Totally different development. I'm not sure that that EIA applies at all today. Thank you.
Since that time, there have been some amendments made to the actual plans for the marina. And like David said, there have been some further studies to address certain changes that were made, certain technical changes. And again, you are welcome to come and view it. And going back to who pays for these EIAs, this is the standard in Anguilla and in the region. To be honest with you, I don't know of any jurisdiction where it's paid for by the government. It's paid because they're very expensive. And something to note is that any reputable firm they would want to produce the best study possible because it's their reputation at stake. And that information is analyzed by the stakeholders on island. And again, when we prepare the terms of reference for the firm, we also recommend certain specialists that should be on board. And like I said, we review their CVs and all the previous jobs that they would have done. And it's only accepted once we are assured that this firm is reputable enough to conduct studies on our island. Yeah.
A very pleasant good evening.
In the meeting, the EIA entity is an independent EIA entity that can be selected from a very short-listed number of consultants, and these consultants are independent. And it is performed in the same way as it is performed everywhere else in the world, where the EIA is paid by the developer that has an interest in developing a specific location.
A very pleasant good evening. My name is Derek Gums. I have a background in engineering. I visited a marina in the Netherlands many years ago, and most recently in Tartol in the BVI. And what I observed back then and now is it is a low-hanging fruit for locals. My question is, I'm representing the TVET Council of Anguilla. Are you, the developers, beginning to think about how you can engage Anguillans as early as possible to get involved in training overseas, so that by the time the marina is functioning and commissioned, we can have a cadre of young Anguillians involved in the functioning and running of the marina? My concern really is that we have had projects come to Anguilla of various types, and enough of that has not been done. So when the ribbon is cut, we find that people are flooding in from all over to participate. So I hope the discussions may have gone on, so pardon me, that there would be some deliberately and concise measures through the schools, the colleges, and all the other entities in Angola relative to training Anguillians to enjoy that low-hanging fruit. My name is Derek. If you're interested in talking to me as a member of the TVET Council, I'm more than happy in the future to sit with you and the company. Thank you very much, sir.
If I could jump on that question before David chimes in. We would have met with David ever since we got elected in February. And that was a top priority, to make sure that, you know, those jobs, especially those highly skilled jobs, that they go to Anguillians. And David has been committed throughout the entire process of negotiation and speaking about the project. He has been committed to ensuring that locals are hired, locals are trained. We're going to need to follow up to see, you know, what those key positions are and the necessary training that is needed. David's commitment shows also through the commitment he made to sailing and boat racing in Anguilla. And you would have known that this is probably the second year. Last year would have made the second year that he took sailors to the major regatta. Is it in Italy, David? But it shows commitment, even to that level. Taking young Anguillan sailors who sails around Anguilla in the regular boats that we have, to give them the experience of sailing on the big regatta boats. If you want to chime in, David, go ahead.
And I want to emphasize that this is one of the key elements in our approach. The marina management, and there will be also several other groups participating in the marina, servicing the super yachts and servicing the different aspects of the marina. And here we are very, very much committed, not only during construction, but in particular during the operations of the marina, bringing in new technologies and new industries into the island, so that the Anguillians can adopt these industries and can adopt this knowledge and be part of the development of the marina. So it is a key element for us to hire Anguillians and instruct and educate Anguillians in the operations of marinas, in the operations of vessels, in the maintenance of vessels, in the engineering of engines for large yachts, in the engineering of electronics for large yachts, in the engineering of interiors and many other aspects of the yachts. So this will bring a complete different industry into the island that is not existing today. And it is, as I said, our full commitment that Anguillians will be considered and will be not only considered, will be the center of this development. And obviously, the basic original knowledge will have to come from outside because it does not exist in Ireland. But we will be sending many people for instruction abroad and for the education and the instruction in all these disciplines. So we are very much committed to that. And as Kyle Hodge was mentioning before, part of this commitment is how we actively integrate already now with the sailing schools in Anguilla and the sailors of Anguilla, and integrating them into our sailing programs. They have been participating in one of the largest, if not the largest, regatta in the world, and many other very important races in Europe. And our plan is to continue this cooperation. And in this year, 2026, we are planning to bring these Anguillian sailors as part of this sailing team into the World Cup regattas that are going to take place in May of 2026 in Europe. So we are very committed to this, and we are part of this. And in fact, one of the persons that works with us and is also an excellent sailor is present in this meeting, and that is Cheryl Webster. She is online, and maybe Cheryl, you want to chip in there and make some statements on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to, David. I'm very honored to be selected to work with Port Nimara to help sort of be their liaison between our local community and also the work that they're trying to do here in Anguilla. So I'm very dedicated to ensuring that development will spread not only within the bounds of the marina, but also looking at our sailing school and looking at boat racing as a whole, and really ensuring that the economic impact is able to tap into the very basis of our community. So very excited to be working with the team, and also we're very grateful for the fact that they've been bringing us up to Europe for 2 years now to train and race alongside them, and it's been incredible exposure for myself and fellow Anguillians, and yeah, we look forward to continued cooperation, and yeah, it's all quite exciting.
Yes, and Cheryl, apart from being a great sailor, she's also a very good manager, and so she is participating in the management, in the project management on site in Anguilla. But she's also not the only one. We have a very large team of Anguillians involved in the design, the development, the construction of this marina, and the management of the different processes in Anguilla. So today our team is almost to 40 or 50% composed by Anguillians. So so our commitment is not just a commitment. We are turning this commitment into actual reality.
Sounds great. My name is Marcel Foy, and I'm happy that we are able to bring a marina of this nature and quality to Anguilla. Reflects some diversification within the tourism industry. And of course, we need to also diversify into other areas. I'm not going to get into too many deep questions. I'm going to ask some basic questions to kind of create a broader context. I did ask a question, I got here a little late, so I asked, for example, whether it would say how many birds will be in the marina. Simple as that. So, so I have several things, so maybe somebody may need to write it down. So my first thing was number of birds, and more generally, a very brief and basic description of the overall project, because there was reference to hotel, there was reference to other things, so how it all will fit together. This bill is relating to the birth slips, and there's reference, as I had a quick look, I didn't see it before I got here, to the fact that the owners will be able to rent. So they'll be making an income and they'll be subject to the laws that apply to another business, presumably. But also, a question I would have, that's monetization from the standpoint of the private owner. And then there's monetization from the standpoint of Anguilla, jobs created, also the government in terms of revenue and taxation. My question in relation to that would be whether there is or there will be any consideration for a specific levy, tax, whatever, in relation to a berth. Because in terms of the tax laws, outside of the GST and so on, the new GST and all of that, businesses often have to pay some kind of annual fee, whatever, under the Business Licensing Act. I don't know, I'm just raising that. Because obviously, one wants to strike a balance between what comes to Anguilla, what comes to the individual owners, so that everybody at the end of the day is happy. So that's a second issue. Again, a very basic thing. I double-checked to see whether there was something in the document that speak to objects and reasons, which I know is typical when new legislation comes to the table. They always have an objects and reasons with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 paragraphs. I think it's important even at this stage, as it's being discussed, that should be available to the public. And if it's not prepared as yet, I would say that should be fast-tracked, because again, that helps to create the broader context of it. In other words, the objects and reasons is wider legislation. And my final issue would be I should add back to the tax aspect. I know some legislation, for example, specifically in particular legislation, apart from general tax legislation, there might be inclusion in the particular legislation, any tax sections to do with tax or licenses or fees. The Registered Land Act, I know does that. Now, presumably the Registered Land Act, this comes under that as a subsidiary in some way, shape, or form. So I guess the 5% thing, whatever, comes into play. I'm not sure that I decide whether that is properly addressed in this as well, the linkage. So that is something that I would raise. And whether there might be some other special thing, because this is a special type of land and all of that. And finally, this is the first project of this nature in Anguilla. And I know sometimes you have to create a suite of legislation that properly addresses the peculiarities and the special issues that arise. This speaks to births. I don't know if there's anything else. For example, you're having customs, immigration, and those kind of things at the marina. How is it being designated as a port? it's not a general port, and then everybody, all of those things. So my question is more for government folks, having to do with the overall context of legislation, of regulations, of the overall project, so that all parties kind of can read from the same page, because everything is covered perhaps in a suite of legislation. This is not to say that you want to overpower the situation. I'm saying this from the standpoint of somebody who 100% supports it. Okay? I know Mr. Mizrahi from before, when I was permanent secretary in economic development, and I was involved back then in having to push out the whole notion that we really need to go into this area to diversify within our tourism, etc. So those are the things I wanted to put on the table to help perhaps even with the discussion and the exchange.
Okay, so what I'll do, I'll allow David to respond to the first two questions, some simple questions. How many boats? And then a brief description of the project. You have a captive audience here in front of us, and you have a captive audience online. So take advantage of this opportunity.
Yes, so the marina will have in total 118 berths. The smallest berths will be, as I mentioned, 40 foot. There will be some berths, some 6 berths for 30-foot boats. That is more for tenders of yachts that cannot enter the marina, so they can come into the marina. But the large amount of berths starts by 40 foot, then there are 50 foot, 65, 80, 120, 100, 120, 150, 202. There is one berth for 240 foot. So this is approximately, this is the mix that we will have in the marina. Other components, as I mentioned before, there will be customs and immigration, where it will be a customs and immigration building, which will contain also the marina management, will contain also certain other activities related to the marina, like concierge, yacht concierge, consultants and activities. Boats repair. There will be a small repair and storage yard in the marina. And then there will be a hotel. This has been announced. The Equinox, a New York brand that promotes the fitness and the club aspects in New York. This will be the operator, the Equinox Hotel, which is a 5-star hotel. There will be villas. There will be Equinox villas, and there will be also certain areas which will contain retail. In particular, there will be areas with marine retail. There will be several restaurants. Approximately, we are considering right now at least 4 restaurants and bars. There will be a yacht club. So the members of the yacht club are those that are owners of a berth in the marina, but it will be accessible to everyone within the hotel building, which is basically a rooftop lounge that has a view over the marina. And there will be several other units and apartments. The hotel will have 62 keys. And there will be several, as I mentioned, several other penthouses, apartments, and other residential areas that will be built as we progress with the project.
Thank you, David.
Yes, I haven't been prepared to show you a presentation on this, but yeah, I can I can see if I can, if you give me a second.
While you're waiting, and David, Stefan, in particular to your question about the revenue streams,
They are outlined in the MOU with the developer. At the present moment, we don't think we need to do any additional legislation. We should not include that legislation or those revenue streams in the current marina legislation. And they are also taken care of on the other bits of legislation like the RAL and so forth. So they are also in other bits of legislation. So there's no need to bring them into the marina legislation. So about the objects and reasons, that point is taken. We will include that in the.
The only comment I would make to your first answer is for lay people, they in government all the time and know where this is and that is and that is, and can bring it together. Some kind of summary would be so great, right? That between the MOU and this legislation or whatever, these are the revenue streams from the standpoint of government and therefore the people of Anguilla, other than jobs and those other issues in terms of the private sector. That would help.
Point taken. We'll do that. Okay.
Can you see my screen right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
So here I can show you more in detail where the elements are. If you, let's see. I don't know if you see my cursor, but this is where the marina management and the customs and immigration building is. As I mentioned before, there will be other services provided here. There will be a little boat yard for small partial repairs. In this area, we are hosting the 40-foot boats. Then we go into the 50-foot and 65-foot. And here, those are the 100-foot and 120-foot. This year will be the 150, and these are the 200, and this is where the 240-foot will be located. As I mentioned before, this is the hotel building. I hope you see my cursor, where we have like a terrace with a pool, and that will provide the access to the beach. This is the area where the oceanfront villas will be. These are other penthouses and lofts, and in the ground floor there will be retail areas that will be more marina related. These buildings will probably be built in a later stage. And down below the hotel at the promenade area, here there will be retail, more of a commercial retail. Then we will have areas with villas that we call them the upland villas, because these areas will be elevated. And as you can see, the marina or the illumination of the marina will be very contained, and we will have a promenade all around the marina for people to circulate and visit the marina and view the boats. In this area, we have a restaurant. This is the yacht club up here, where which will be basically a rooftop lounge with a view to the marina. And then there will be other small restaurants and bars along the promenade.
Thank you, David.
Yeah. Yeah, so here, these are different views. This is a view of the entrance. We see here the yacht club on the top and the entrance into the hotel. This is a view of the yacht club towards the marina. This is the view of the terrace bar or the pool bar. These are views from the oceanfront residences, and this is the view of the marina. You see here the retail area with restaurants and the roof and the pool bar, the rooftop area here. And this is what I was mentioning before. The illumination is top down, and then there will be the pontoon illumination, the LED pontoon illumination that will provide illumination on the docks. Yeah. Yeah. So these are the different views and images.
We have a question. We have a question there. So someone asked about the acreage. It's 45 acres, the marina. Okay, so the question is about the entrance from the north side to the land side. Where's that main entrance? Is it through the Firefly Lane Road, or is it through the Altamore Road?
Entrance into the marina, to the hotel will be through the Altamore Road. The Firefly Lane is used by Belmont for the back of house. We might use that also for the delivery to the customs and immigration, but we don't foresee any meaningful traffic on Firefly Lane.
Who will be responsible for oil and diesel spills? And will there be a fireboat in case of any emergencies?
The entity will have a responsibility to develop an oil spill response plan to manage the operations. There will be a triggering factor in that if the spill is of a certain capacity, it will trigger the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan and its application, through which the relevant agencies will activate and conduct the necessary assessments. But it's important to note that while they may have a oil spill response plan, any spill that occurs, notification must be made to the relevant agencies, and that will be the Department of Natural Resources Environment and Department of Disaster Management.
Will the marina have oil for sale on site? Or like gas they can refill? Boats, the yachts can refill? Fuel up?
Yes. Any more questions?
This one. Yeah. Good evening, everybody, and trust everybody as well. Just due to recent activities around the Caribbean, would there be an increase in security in terms of policing around the island, knowing that there will be more boats trafficking in and around the island, just to ensure that we keep the borders safe and keep tourists who's visiting safe as well, and locals. Thank you.
Well, we have our ordinary marine protection, fire, rescue, but external security is pretty much under the purview of the governor's office. We have requested, because not just because of what's happening now down south, but we have requested for the patrol vessels to be able to monitor our surrounding waters. There's also a radar surveillance system that is in place right now, and it is monitored through the Joint Emergency Control Center. and that is a 24-hour operation that is currently going on right now to be able to track vessels during the daytime and the nighttime. So radar surveillance and the extra vessel to patrol is something that was requested recently. Right. Any more questions? David, you want to comment before we wrap up? Because I don't think there are any more questions. I'm not seeing any more online.
As I said in the beginning, very thankful for this opportunity, and I hope to have answered all the questions. And in terms of the neighbors, we are in contact with anyone that is neighbor to the marina. We would want to engage on a personal basis. We are planning to have an event very soon, so those neighbors will be invited. We want to engage with all of you and address any concerns. And in particular, we are very much looking forward in cooperating with the Anguilla government and the Anguillians in this project, and very excited about performing this project and building this project for Anguilla.
All right. Thank you, David. The permanent secretary told me to wrap up his mines. I want to thank you, David, for being here. I don't think that we could have done this without you. And I also want to thank Sharma for being here and answering those difficult questions, as well as Sharon and Angela. You guys made it a lot easier for myself and the permanent secretary to be able to complete this consultation with the general public. I want to thank you, the general public, for coming out and asking questions and wanting to be informed. I'm sure your questions and the answers given would have provided a lot of thought and food for thought for the general public. And this is live, so we can always go back and review it if you missed something or if you forgot something. Okay, so I should pause right here. We have a question.
One more question. In terms of the hotels and other areas, will there be rental spaces for boutiques?
David, did you hear the question?
No, or something about the hotel, but I couldn't really hear.
If there will be opportunity for rental spaces for, in particular, boutiques or any other concession stands.
Yes. Or there will be retail areas that are going to be more marine specific, but there will be also underneath the hotel there will be boutiques. There will be boutiques and other more commercial or more regular retail. Let's call it like this.
Yeah, so they're meant for locals to operate in the marina area, on the boardwalk, or the retail shop, the shopping center area. What I can do is I can yeah, so they're meant for local rental on the boardwalk, within the marina, within the retail shopping center.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, David. And again, just to say thanks to the general public for coming out. And I also want to put on record my thanks and appreciation to the Director of Lands. He's not here tonight, but he did a lot of heavy lifting as it relates to getting us here with this legislation, along with Shamika Hodge. She was the acting permanent secretary for the Ministry of Lands for quite a while, and to place on record our thanks to the AG Chambers, in particular Don Richardson, for this bespoke legislation. Thank you so much for coming out.